In this video, we're going to take a look at one of the craziest encounters ever, where at one point a woman even tried to reach for her firearm right in front of an officer. So without any further delay, let's get right into it. On April 5th, 2022, a cop pulled over a woman, introduced himself, and told her that the reason for the stop was her expired tags. He then asked for her driver's license. While she was reaching for her license, the officer spotted a firearm under her jacket and asked her to confirm it, but not to reach for it. Despite the cop clearly telling her not to reach for the firearm, she tried to do so. But the cop stopped her right away, before she could do anything stupid. She didn't like that, and started making excuses for what she just did, saying that she wanted to get the firearm out so the cop could see it. But the cop told her not to reach for it ever again, because if she did, they were going to have problems.
You reach for it, we have issues.
He then asked her for her ID, but she didn't want to give it to him. The officer then told her to put those papers on the dashboard and instructed her to put her hands on the steering wheel. He also told her that the reason for that was his own safety. But as you can imagine, she had something to say about that, and just told the cop that she was the one fearing for her safety, and that was the reason she had a firearm. The cop was having none of it, and gave her a lawful order, so she had no other choice but to do as she was told. He told her that she was being confrontational, and that she had a firearm, which is why he wasn't going to play any games. He then explained that he was going to take her name, date of birth, and continue with his traffic stop. Her face showed how she felt about that, but she had no other choice but to comply.
Hi there. Yep. Hey, I'm Officer Kennedy, Myrtle Creek Police. I let you know conversations being recorded, okay?
Yes, it is.
The reason for the stop today is that uninsured tags are expired. Do you have your license on now? Is that a firearm under your jacket? Don't reach for it, just answer it. I don't know. I'm asking if it's a firearm, so if you reach for it, we have issues.
It is.
Okay, don't ever reach for it, okay? Okay. Will you do me a favor? I'd like to remove that from you.
I would rather remove it myself.
Okay, you're not going to do that. You're not going to put a firearm in your hand. Okay, so just hear me out. Stop talking. Just let me explain, okay? It's for my safety. I don't mean any harm to you.
Excuse me, but it's about my safety.
Okay, I'm not going to hurt you, nor am I putting off an intimidating
Well, I'm not
just
going to
listen.
hurt you.
This is what I would like to do, okay? All I would like you to do is cross your fingers like this, put your hand on your head, and I'd like to just grab it and take it out. I'm not going to seize
No,
it or
I
anything
do not
like that.
want my weapon outside of my vehicle.
Where's your ID?
I do not want my weapon outside of the vehicle.
Where is your
I
ID?
am willing to put my weapon on the dash so that you can clearly
Do not
see it.
touch that gun.
Fine.
Okay.
Then it'll
I'll
see
tell you
where
what.
it's at.
Put the paperwork on the dash for me. Put the paperwork on the dash.
Why?
Because I'm telling you to, and it's a lawful order. Put the paperwork on the dash now, and put your hands on the steering wheel and don't move them. Okay? You're being confrontational. You have a firearm. We're not going to play that game. I'm going to get your name, date of birth, and I'm going to continue my traffic stop. Do you understand that?
The woman then told the cop that she was going to plead the fifth, and he said that it was fine, and that he actually recommended that. Then he asked her to point in the direction of her ID or a driver's license. She didn't want to do that and continued to act, well, let's just say not according to her age. The cop then asked her one more time to tell him her name and the date of birth, but she said that she wasn't going to do that before she showed him the papers. The cop had enough of that and just went on to call for backup. He then told the woman that he was going to get his chief for her. He also urged her to keep her hands on the wheel, and she saw that as an opportunity to yell at the cop some more.
That's fine. I recommend that. Well, if you're not going to plead the fifth, you're going to need to present me with an ID. Can you point to where your ID is?
No, sir. You told me to put my hands on the steering wheel.
But you told me you were going to plead the fifth, which means you're not going to talk anymore. If you're not going to talk, you can't tell me your name and your date of birth. Does that make sense? So will you tell me your name and date of birth?
Not until I present this paperwork.
Okay. 3216. Can I get another unit? I'm going to get my chief down here for you.
Okay.
Keep your hands right where they're at.
I will keep them there as long as I can.
Okay. Perfect. They need to remain there, and your hand needs to stay away from them.
And I already told you, I will keep them there as long as I can. This is not exactly a comfortable position.
When the cop told her that she was being uncooperative, she accused him of lying, saying how the cops always make stuff up. He then used a better word to describe her behavior by saying that she was being argumentative, and she told the same about him. The cop then had to explain that he had to behave like that when there was a firearm involved, to which the woman replied that he was unreliable. When he asked if she ever met him before, she actually said that all she knew was that he was wearing a monkey suit.
Not yet. Female's verbally uncooperative.
I am not uncooperative.
firearm
I am
on it.
simply answering you without lying.
Not at this time.
See, you guys always do that. You guys always make something up that isn't there.
What did I make up today, ma'am?
You're saying I'm being confrontational. I'm not being
Okay,
confrontational.
maybe let me use a different word. Argumentative.
Well, maybe argumentative, but I'd say so are you, because you're not getting everything you want exactly when you want it.
Yeah, because I gotta survive every contact, and
I
I'm gonna
understand
get
that.
what I want when there's a firearm involved.
You know what?
It's gonna happen.
I'm sorry, but it's the police that have proved themselves to be unreliable.
Oh yeah? Have you ever met me before?
Yes, I
You've
have.
met me. Where did you meet me?
Matter of fact, really doesn't matter.
Okay, so you haven't met me, so therefore you have no idea whether I'm reliable or not.
All I know is you're wearing a monkey suit.
A monkey suit? I believe it's a police uniform and a badge.
The cop then realized that she didn't trust the badge, not him personally. Then they went on talking about trust issues, and the woman said that she was willing to compromise. The cop used that opportunity to ask her to put her hands on her head and allow him to take her firearm, and she did that without question, which is a bit surprising given how she behaved up until seconds ago. The cop then proceeded to take her firearm. While he was emptying it, she made a suggestion on how he could do it faster, which he took as a sign of disrespect and called her out on that, and they continued to argue.
But that's fine. I get what you're trying to do. You're mad at the badge, not at me. I'm just trying to go
I
home
don't
every day.
trust the badge.
Okay, you don't have to trust me, but not that I don't trust you, I can't trust you because I don't know you. Okay, I stop hundreds
Okay.
and
that's-
possibly thousands of people every year, and I have to survive each of those contacts for
And I
a
understand
duration of 25 years.
that. I understand that.
I know how to do that, and I know how I want people to react if they do have a firearm, and so that's what I go off of, okay?
And I was willing to compromise with you, but you're not willing to compromise. You want
What
it
is
your
the
way.
compromise?
I am willing to put it on the dash, or even to allow
Okay.
you to put it on the dash. I
would
not
like to do that.
willing to allow you to remove it from my vehicle.
Okay, I can work with you on that a little bit. If I'm going to put it on your dash, I'm going to unload it first.
That's fine.
Okay, will you put your hands on your head with your fingers crossed so I can remove it from you? Thank you. I appreciate that. Any other firearms with you?
No.
Okay.
Can I put my hands down now?
Yes, ma'am. If you could keep them at least visible, that would be wonderful.
Now, can I begin going over this paperwork with me that you're going to thoroughly disagree with me on anyway?
I'm not saying I'm going to disagree with you. It may be legitimate, okay?
It is legitimate.
Okay.
I've done
Well, that's
my
fine.
research in my own
Once I get this done, we'll move on with the rest of the stop.
It would have been a lot easier just to push the heel.
You don't get to decide how things go. Okay. I'm all about I'm all about respecting you and trying to work with you.
I was
but
trying to be helpful.
You were not. I was
Yes,
I was asking
yes,
you
I-
to do something,
I
and
was
you were
talking.
refusing to.
I was talking about with getting the bullets out of the gun.
The woman asked the cop if he could put the firearm on her dash, and he didn't want to do that. At least not until the chief got there. He then asked about her identification, and she said that she was going to wait for the chief too, which was fine with the cop.
For personal feelings, I understand that. You did not prefer it that way. But there's times during a traffic stop or an interaction with
My gun
police,
is
you
still
have to
not on my
set your
dash.
personal opinion or feelings aside
You
to
agreed
obey a lawful
to
order.
put my weapon on my dash.
Afterwards.
No.
Correct.
You
After I
agreed
told you.
to put my
Okay,
weapon
we're going to stop
on
this. I'm going to wait for the
dash.
chief. We'll go from there. I'm going to put it on the dash now. You need to not reach for it, and I'm going to put it on that side. Will you roll that window down?
I have to turn.
Just turn it. Turn it to the on. Yeah, accelerator on. That's fine.
Sorry.
Actually, I'm gonna hold it here until the chief's here. Okay, where's your identification at?
I will just wait for your chief.
Fine with me.
After arguing some more and the woman saying that she didn't want to repeat herself, the chief finally arrived. The cop then proceeded to explain everything to his chief down to a T. After he relayed all the information to the chief, he asked the woman for her driver's license. to which she replied that she wanted to show him the paperwork first.
Okay.
I don't feel like repeating myself.
Okay.
So, I am not refusing to identify. I am simply requesting that you take into account that there's more to it than maybe even what you know. I know you're an officer and you think you know all the laws. Sorry, but nobody knows all the laws.
I've never claimed to.
I would certainly hope not. I feel bad for anybody that has to.
So, Chief, will you roll that window down for the chief so we can hear everything that's being said? So I have the firearm now. It's clear from her. So essentially, approached. I know she had the firearm on her hip. Not a big deal. I asked her if it was a firearm that she'd point at it or tell me instead of reaching it. She reached for it. Anyway, I asked her to put her hands on her head so I could remove it from her and take it back to my vehicle to secure it during the rest of the stop because she's mildly argumentative. She refused to do that. We ended up coming to a compromise. She let me take it off her and unload it. So it's been a bit of a confrontation. I've asked her for a license multiple times. She said she wouldn't give it until you got here, so that's where we're at. So can I have your license?
I want to repeat myself.
Okay, can I have your license, please?
Just real quick, man, just so you know, my name's Chief Brewster. Like, I got my camera going too, so this is recording, okay?
Okay. I've got my camera recording as well.
Okay.
Now, as I told you before I relinquish my information, I am going to go over this paperwork.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay? Which, of course, is not in order. I promise this was in order when I put it. Oh, come on. Paper is so thin, just... Here we go. So, as you're asking me for...
The woman then started actually reading her rights. The cops were very surprised by this, but they let her read for a while and then told her to provide her driver's license or else she would be arrested.
My driver's license. I do want you to know that the right of the citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon by horse-drawn carriage, wagon, or automobile is not a mere privilege which may be permitted or prohibited at will, but a common right which he has under his right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Under this constitutional guarantee, one may, therefore, under normal conditions, travel at his inclination along the public highways or in public places, and while conducting himself in an orderly and decent manner, neither interfering with nor disturbing another's rights. He will be protected, not only in his person, but in his safe conduct. And I can give you where to find that if you would like.
And we don't need to. The U.S. Supreme Court has already squashed that, so...
No, the U.S. Supreme Court has not.
Yes, they have. And you do have a right to travel. You have a right to travel by your feet or your horse, but you have to have a driver's license.
No, you do not.
Okay, we can argue this later, so you need to provide the officer with your driver's license or you will be arrested for failure to carry and present.
For what crime?
Failed to carry and present a driver's license. That's a Class C misdemeanor in the state of Oregon.
She wasn't very happy with it, but she gave the officer her license anyway. The officer then asked her if she had proof of insurance or registration, regardless if she thought it was required or not. And she said no. The officer then took her license with him and told her that he would be back.
Without a crime, it is not a failure.
So you have to let go of it. You have to
Why
present
do-
it to
Why do I have to let go? I presented it. You can see it.
Do you have a concealed handgun license with you?
No,
Okay. Do you have insurance for the vehicle?
not required.
Okay.
Okay. Whether you feel it's required or not, do you have insurance information? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Do you have registration information? Whether it's required in your opinion or not, do you have...
I don't know if it's here in the car or not.
Okay, so you just don't know. Okay, that's fine. I'll be back.
After a while, the cop approached the woman and asked her to step out of her vehicle. He told her that they would be placing her under arrest for carrying a concealed weapon. That took her by surprise and she started arguing, but the cops did a really good job at explaining everything to her. They told her that it was considered a concealed weapon because she carried it under her jacket. If it was on the dashboard or not covered with a jacket, that would have been open carry, and that wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I think so.
Gina, what's the deal, okay? You need to step out of the vehicle because you're being placed under arrest for carrying a concealed firearm.
You're placing me under arrest for a concealed firearm.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask what led you to that decision?
Okay, well, you're carrying a concealed firearm, and that's a crime in Oregon.
Ma'am, do you recall I asked you if that was a gun underneath your jacket?
And I said yes.
Okay, so by me not being able to tell whether it was a gun or not, it was not in open plain view, right? Okay, so it would have been concealed if I can't tell that it's a gun.
You could obviously see the butt of it.
If you got your sweatshirt covering that gun, it's concealed. An open carry is open carry. Nothing obstructing the firearm or the holster that it's in.
So had it been on the dash or like flat on the passenger seat,
Or had it been on your side without a sweatshirt covering it, that's not concealed. But you have it under
So
clothing,
now
that's
you guys
concealed.
want to know.
and additionally, it's also a crime to present me with a driver's license knowing that it's suspended.
The cop also told her that it was a crime to hand him a suspended license, and explained to her that he saw that she was already convicted of suspended license in December of the previous year, which was just a few months before this traffic stop. He also told her that there was a good indication that she knew it was suspended, which is also a crime in the state of Oregon, to which she just said that he was making assumptions. He then told her that he didn't know that for a fact, but that there was a pretty good indication that she knew about it, and asked her to step out of the vehicle so that they could arrest her.
I see you were convicted of driving while suspended in December, late December of 2021, which was only a few months ago. Additionally, you haven't been reinstated at all since then, so there's a pretty good inclination that you knew you were suspended and knew that license was not valid. That's also a crime in the state of Oregon.
You're making assumptions.
No, that's...
You're making assumptions.
Oh, as far as your knowledge
you're
of that?
assuming whether I knew or did not know.
Right, I never said I knew for a fact. Okay? I'm not in your mind, I can't know that. But there's pretty good evidence to show that you likely knew. But additionally from that, for the concealed firearm, yes, you are under arrest. So we just need you to step out. We don't want it to be incident or anything. Just ask you to step out and face the panel up there for us, please.
So maybe like I explained to you, this isn't the place to argue. That just makes things worse. That's why there's court.
Yeah, you guys looked for the most petty thing that you could to arrest me for.
Okay, well we didn't.
And
we didn't
I'm
look
willing
for
to bet that in the process, you guys have got a whole lot of other things going on.
She didn't want to do that, at least not immediately, so she asked why she was stopped in the first place, hoping to buy some time, but the officer explained that to her very clearly. He also reminded her that she was recently convicted of driving while suspended and that she didn't have insurance. As expected, she continued to argue. But the cop told her that this wasn't a time nor the place to argue, and that she would have the chance to argue that in court. She brought up the Supreme Court decision, and the cop reminded her that she could argue that in court, file a lawsuit, or whatever she liked, and asked her once again to step out of the vehicle.
So before we jump to that, I'd like to know what I was pulled over for.
I told you, you're stopped for expired tags. Okay, additionally, the registered owner of the vehicle is suspended. It appeared to look similar to you based off the picture I pulled up before I stopped you. But in and of itself, I can stop you if the registered owner of the vehicle is suspended and the description would match. Additionally, you have a light housing on the back here that's broken. I didn't notify you that that's why I stopped you, because I was primarily just stopping you for the tags. But, I mean, we can point at things, but I don't want to nitpick with you. I don't want to argue with you. Okay, this is kind of what we're going to do. You're obviously very familiar with the courts. You referenced the Supreme Court earlier in the stop. Okay, so you know that that's the place to argue this stuff. So at this point, that's why you're under arrest. Okay, so we're going to ask that you step out. We don't want an argument with you. We don't want any altercation.
My car.
So you were convicted of driving while suspended recently. So
you have no insurance on the vehicle.
You guys have no legal right to tell it.
Okay, again, you can argue that in court.
But I'm talking to you now.
Okay, this isn't the place for these arguments, okay, ma'am? So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and step out of the vehicle, and if you refuse
I will
to...
step
okay.
out of the vehicle. However, the U.S. Supreme Court has already ruled that a vehicle is a household effect.
Okay.
Therefore, you have no right to tow it.
Okay. Again, you can argue that in court. You can argue that. You can file lawsuits. You can do what you like.
So,
Okay.
in other words, what you're saying, Chief, is that
The woman then proceeded to talk to the chief. He was explaining stuff to her, hoping that she would finally come to her senses and get out of the vehicle. But instead, she told him that he didn't know all the laws, despite him never claiming to know all the laws. After some more arguing, and realizing that she had no choice, the woman exited her vehicle and they placed her in cuffs. They read her rights and escorted her to their vehicle. This was where they asked her if she had someone with a valid driver's license to come and take control of the vehicle within the next 20 minutes, but she chose to remain silent.